Hello viewers, and today I wanted to show you a little breakdown of the early game phase of Warzone. If you do find it quite tricky pre-loadout, it can be especially quite tricky really when you don't really know the map very well, or you don't really almost know what to do with yourself until you've got your loadout. And so I just thought I'd break down a game for you. So as you can see, for this particular game that I have got, I wanted to play nice and aggressive and go for a bounty. Bounties of course earn the most money should you actually complete them, which can get your loadout nice and quick. But anyway, so what I've done is I've sort of done a little bit of a 180 on the bounty to see who else was landing here, and now I know that there is one other person here and they are upstairs. And so you got to think of these little fights really almost like a gulag. So I've set up, I've grabbed a gun, I've grabbed a claymore. I know that if he comes downstairs I need to be ready. And that is exactly what happened. I set up the claymore. That probably threw him off quite a bit. He was probably feeling aggressive having a Volk and a Bren. He probably assumed I didn't have all that much as I was being very quiet and creeping around. But that is how it just goes sometimes. But now I've got this house to myself, and I know that there are going to be some other people about in this housing estate. As you can see, I'm constantly looking around, looking for potential places where I'm going to get shot from. I know that there's probably no one in this particular house because I could hear the hum of the loadouts, and notice that I've closed the door behind me, because now if anyone was following me and I didn't see them, they're going to have to open that door, and it's going to give me essentially a sound cue to know that a fight is about to happen. Now I've looted this building, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the door, and I'm just going to sort of loophole my way throughout the estate. So I'm not going to fully just stand out in the doorway. I'm just going to check and give myself a limited firing angle. This means that I can only see, well, this means essentially that people can only see me if I can see them, and it works really well. And you sort of rinse and repeat as you work your way through the building. I did see some people land here at the beginning of the game, and so I am being more cautious as I go deeper and deeper in the direction of the housing estate towards the shop. I did get quite lucky there, as you can see, with a precision airstrike, which could come in really handy either for something like area denial or something like that. But anyway, I'm just doing the same thing again, a little bit of loophole looking, if that makes sense. I'm checking up towards fields if anyone feels like traversing from place to place. So that's not something I would necessarily recommend in the early game, because there are so many people on the map. The time where you're going to actually die or be killed by another player is actually when you're moving from place to place. It's much less likely that you're going to be shot when you're in a building. Now, as you might have heard then, a UAV went up, so I'm either thinking that people have either bought a UAV at a shop, which could be very, very close, or they have found one. Luckily, I just got a UAV myself, and I can see exactly where they were. As you can see, there are 4 players sort of in this area. There's one by the shop, and that person right there was waiting for me to come out. Now, there was no cues at all that he should have known that I was there, so I was pretty confident that he was the person using the UAV. But now we've sort of had that fight, and I do know that there are at least 2 other people in this area. As you can see, I stayed in the building. I waited to hear for him to fire at the 4th person. It was the 4th person. And so I can just take a silenced sniper shot, bleed some of his armor, because very often in the early game, people don't have that much armor. Luckily, I do actually have some. And this is another thing which I find really, really useful. Now, even though I did get shot here, what I actually did was I decided to move as soon as the beeping towards the circle having closed had started, because this can actually mask your footsteps. If you have, you know, a definitive sound which everyone is going to hear at a single point, that could be a precision airstrike going overhead, or maybe the announcer saying something to everyone, or that countdown beep. It's really good at masking your footsteps if you don't have a dead silence. So you can move from cover to cover and be a little bit more confident that players nearby aren't going to hear you. But anyway, I tried to rush this guy by going underneath him, and I didn't really I wasn't really that successful, but nonetheless I am still alive. I haven't bled any armor at all. and I've got a pretty good vantage point still for against him and the rest of the players. As you can see, we've essentially swapped buildings, which I really wasn't expecting, but because he's sort of on high alert, if you like, not the perk, but he is actually shooting at another player now. Maybe a player had gone for the shop or something, or he just saw him in the other building. I'm assuming this person that I am fighting was the one from the shop building. As you can see, I'm just sort of rinse and repeating that that tactic where I'm just trying to find a little loophole to snipe through, so the only things I can see is what everyone else can see to me, if that makes sense. The people that can see me, I can see them, essentially. I'm not going to get crept up on in those sort of loophole scenarios. And so I do want to move back into this building if I can. I'm quite confident with this Volk, but he had the same idea, and he definitely got the drop on me then. So straight back inside, and I need to armor up as fast as possible. If I'm not armored up and he chases me, he's just got a massive advantage. Even if I am the better player, he's only got to deal less damage to me. Luckily, he just wanted it as a distraction, and he wanted to start moving closer into the circle as the circle is about to shrink in around about 2 minutes. So luckily, I know that there are probably only one other person camping around in this estate. So, as you can see here, there is a second person looking to take me out. Luckily, they got a little bit overconfident with that push, and I could use the tree. If you notice, as I'm moving around, as I'm again getting shot at by yet another player, I'm making note of where all the potential cover is if I'm about to get shot at any moment. You don't ever want to beeline to an objective. What I was actually doing there was I was actually going to go and get that guy's money, but I sort of went around the house, around the rock, and around the tree, and it saved my life. As you can see there, I just created 2 entry points for him to rush me. There was the window or the door, and I could see them from both angles. And that meant that wherever he came from, I was always going to have my front to him, and therefore my gun, so I could shoot. But anyway, there we go. I managed to save up 16,000, which is the perfect amount of money, because the first thing you want to do is buy a UAV. So anyone that doesn't have Ghost or something like that, you can see them on the radar, and then I can throw down my loadout in safety. But anyway, that is pretty much the segment of the early game that I would consider, and I hope that my complete rambling is useful for you, hopefully in some way, be that using the beeping of the timer to mask your footsteps, or just looking around, using loopholes and defilade, I think you should call it, to your advantage, so you don't get shot in the back, which is very often the most frustrating and common thing that you can find in Warzone solos. But as I say, a lot of things could be applied to duos, trios, and quads if you really wanted to. But anyway, that is it for the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching, and do leave a like if you did enjoy this video, and drop down in the comments your little tips and tricks as well for everyone else that I have probably missed, because if we just share all of our ideas, then we can all get better at Warzone. But anyway, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.